It's not, we're still confirming, we'll announce it to you all. You know who it is, you do know who he is, and I'm excited that he'll be here as well to talk with you. So I want to introduce you to Dr. Steve Perry. He is a national icon in the education revolution, a change agent in the tireless fight, providing equal opportunities for children who otherwise would not have a voice. He is committed to excellence in education. He is a former principal of what the U.S. News and World Report has cited as one of the top schools in the country, Capital Preparatory Magnet School in Hartford, Connecticut. Capital Prep has sent 100% of its students, as well as collegiate, to college. It's minority first-generation high school graduates to four-year universities, and every year since class of 2006. That's a big wave of applause. Applause for that. In 2006, because of this, 2012, because of his success, with the objective to open schools that provide as many as low-income students and families with an educational experience that he considers a right for a just opportunity. As head of schools, Dr. Perry has been instrumental in advocating for developing and opening the Capital Preparatory Harbor School in Bridgeport, Connecticut for the 2015 and 2016 school year. His organization has also opened the Capital Preparatory Harlem School for this school year, as well as he's also going to be opening up more preparatory schools in all of the boroughs of in New York City. Give him a hand for that. Dr. Perry is completely committed to closing the educational inequities that plague our youth and families in low-income communities. He's considered the current state of education as being a crisis when he speaks. When he speaks, it's a call to action to ignite the voice and save the children. His words are personal, they're brilliant and heartfelt, motivating people out the country to take action and become active in the educational reform to save our communities. His passion, advocacy, and commitment to education can also be seen on CNN's Black in America series, education contributor to CNN and NBC, Essence Magazine columnist, and host of the #1 docudrama on TV1, Save My Son. He shares his keys to success and calls to action in his latest best-selling book entitled Push Has Come to Shove, Getting Our Kids the Education They Deserve, even if it means picking a fight. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Steve Perry.
How y'all doing this morning? Excuse me, my voice is a mess, so I don't, you'll see me sipping on tea because I get to work around kids all the time. Believe it or not, y'all carry germs and make people like me talk like this. So I do appreciate having the opportunity to talk to you. I have to say, Mr. Jordan, you have quite a tight group. I get the opportunity to talk to students all over the country. I sincerely do. And being here at Friendship, in just the brief time that I've been here, what I've seen is a group of young people who are focused on changing the world. That's a powerful thing, really, when you think about it, because there's so many people who would look at the 7th Ward, is what they refer to it as. Am I saying it right? What's that? Ward 7, okay. There are people who look at Ward 7, and they wouldn't see what I'm seeing right now. They wouldn't see young people who are committed to changing their lives and essentially changing their community. Changing the future by changing their minds. Changing their minds by changing the way they act. Changing the way they act by putting in place the behaviors that are necessary to be successful. See, what I can tell by the school is that you've been coached real well. What I can tell by your response to me and just your response to your principal is that this is a group that's going to go very far. But I do have to have an honest conversation with you, and I say a conversation because I genuinely want it to be a conversation. You spend so much of your time and so much of your teenage years having grown people talk at you. And that's a problem because what happens is we lose out on the information that you have for us. Every generation has a contribution to the conversation. Too often the generations that come behind us don't get any access to the conversation. As a result, we miss out on the wisdom that comes from their experience. So when I say to you break the stereotype and don't be the stereotype. What does that mean? Yes? Do something different? What do you mean by that? What's your name, son? Give it for Delonte, please. First person to speak up. What Delonte said is just because you see somebody else do something, it doesn't mean that you feel like you have to do it. What do you think the stereotypes are that people have about people who live in Ward 7? What are some of the stereotypes? Not gonna go to college? Low income?
Uneducated.
Let's speak up for me a little bit.
Uneducated.
Uneducated? I heard somebody else, what was that? Jail? What else? What are some of the other stereotypes? What are some of the other beliefs that people know? They feel like they know you before they ever met you. What are some of the things you think that people think about you? What's that? Say one more time, son. Violence. Anything else? Ghetto. Black on black crime. What else? Dirty. Let's stay there for a second. Because that's real. What's your name, son? Jaden? Jalen? I'm gonna come to you because I heard one of them. I want to stay on this dirty for a second. There's something powerful about the honesty of young people. Because as people get older, what happens is we learn how to say the same things that you say, but we learn to say them more artfully. So they don't really sound like they should sound. So we say things and we clean them up so that when we say them, they sound less hurtful. But in so doing, what we do is we rob the listener of the honesty that comes from the authenticity of your youth. So when you say that a stereotype that people have of people who live in this community is that they see them as dirty, there's a certain honesty there. There's a certain honesty that we need to have in terms of a conversation, because the truth is that very few people are going to ever get to see you like you are now. Very few people in the world are ever going to get to come to Washington, D.C. and see beautiful, black, intelligent, young people who didn't need somebody to come in here and stick their fingers up and shh, any other kind of foolishness, and clap 3 times if you hear me, and make any other absurd noises to make you listen, because you came focused. Most people will never, ever see how amazing what I'm seeing is. And when they see it, when they do see it, what they're going to say is that somehow the educators in this school did something nefarious, did something dirty, cheated, found the only black Latino students in the 7th ward who had the capacity to learn because they believed that the rest of them didn't. Somehow through this lottery, somehow you got here and you ain't like the other kids. Because their racism is so deep that if they stood where I'm standing right now and they see what I'm seeing right now, they couldn't just accept it as true. They couldn't just accept it as the way in which every school could be run and should be run. They couldn't just accept that you are not the exception but the rule. That there are children who didn't get in for whatever reason, who could do what you're doing today, who have the capacity to sit and listen and engage a speaker regardless of whether or not they know him or her. See, the stereotypes are real. People genuinely believe that you are not capable of going to college. The system is set up. America is set up so that black, Latinos, and poor people do not make it. It is set up for that purpose. And if you think differently, look at the statistics. of their graduates are on the four-year colleges. But there are no waiting lists to get in prison. There are budget crises when it comes time to have a conversation about opening up more schools like this. But when it comes to opening up more seats in prisons, there is no budget crisis. There are no limits. This country always finds a way to find money to lock people who look like you up. See, if you want to have a real conversation, you got to understand that there are stereotypes. Stereotypes. Everybody know what a stereotype is? Anybody know what a stereotype is? Yes, sir. What's your name, son? Brandon? He said that it's like an accusation, something that's not really true. Somebody else, help him up. That's a good start. Yes, ma'am.
Prejudice.
Prejudice. That's an awesome start. Building on what he just said, what Brandon just said. What's your name, love?
Diamond.
Dominic?
Diamond.
Diamond. Yes, ma'am.
The way somebody view you before actually me.
I love that. I love that. What's your name?
Destiny.
Jesse?
Destiny.
Destiny? That's all right. I have trouble here. My head is all fogged up, so it's not your fault. You said it. Destiny, give it up for Destiny, please. So what Destiny says is this is the belief that somebody has about you before they even meet you. Tell me how a stereotype could be harmful to you. Tell me how someone's belief about you that could be negative, that is largely negative, could be harmful to you. Yes, sir. Be harmful. That's what I'm talking about. What's your name, son? Anthony. Give it up for Anthony, please. So Anthony, he's from the 7th Ward. He's black. He's male. I'm not going to hire him. That what you're saying? Somebody else give me an example of how a stereotype, a negative perception about you, a negative stereotype about you could be harmful to your life. Yes, sir. People don't want to be around you. What's your name, sir? I'm sorry. I'm going to come to you. Emmanuel. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. People don't want to be around you. Tell me some other circumstances in which a stereotype, a negative stereotype, could be problematic for you. Police. Who said that? What's your name, love? What's that again? Zoria? Zoria, that's a pretty name, Zoria. She said police. How could a negative stereotype that the police have of you be problematic to your life? Somebody tell me, yes, sir. They shoot you. Simple, right? It's just simple, right? Because if somebody believes that when they see a black or Latino, when they see one of you and they recognize where you're from, especially if they see you in the context or in the community, they can easily think that you are a threat to them. Am I correct? And as such, you could be treated like a threat, correct? And what happens when you're treated like a threat? You die. You don't recognize this. And I know you don't. It's not because you're unintelligent. It's because you're in this space and time. You're young still. You're a part of a revolution. You are the example of what Dr. King said he dreamed to see. You are evidence that people like me need every single day when we travel around the country to prove that we need to open more schools like this. You are the proof that there is a lie out there that says that because a child is born into a particular community, because his mother doesn't make a lot of money, because his father may be gone, that is not a limit on that child's ability, but in fact a limit on the mind of the person who is seeing them as having limits. See, stereotypes very often are the ways in which other people who can't look at you and see the beauty that I see live. They need a stereotype to be able to say there's a reason why things are the way they are, and they have to say so because in order for that to be so, they need to keep the circumstance the same. No waiting list to get in prisons, waiting list to get in charter schools. So what do you think I mean when I say beat the stereotype, don't be the stereotype? Yes, ma'am.
Become someone that they don't expect you to become.
That's beautiful. What's your name? What's your name?
Angel.
Give it up. Angel said, don't become someone who they don't, say it again because I want you to say it, Angel, when you said it. Become someone that they don't expect you to. What I want to do is I want to share with you, in the brief time that I have with you, a story about a kid. Because I get to work with a lot of kids and I get to know a lot of kids. A kid who broke a stereotype. This young man was born on his mother's 16th birthday. His father abused his mother. He grew up in public housing and didn't really see himself as smart. In fact, by the time he was in the 3rd grade, he had already been retained. He had to stay back. And the more time he spent in school, the less it felt like school was for him. Struggled with reading and math. Anybody here struggle with math? You own the stereotypes. How many people here think that they're bad at math? And every person who thinks they're bad at math will convince themselves that they are bad at math. See, the truth is that we internalize stereotypes. We internalize this notion that some of us are good at a certain subject and some of us are bad at a certain subject. And if we believe ourselves to be bad at that subject, we actually convince ourselves that we are so. And so if you believe, for instance, that you are bad at writing or bad at English as a whole, if you are bad at math and you are bad at science, you will be bad at that. And so the stereotype actually, in this case, is a stereotype that you create for yourself of yourself as someone who is not capable of being good at a subject because you don't know anybody that's good at it, or you don't like the teacher, or you don't get along with the teacher, or you say you don't want to become a mathematician. But the fact is that so many of us who grow up in circumstances such as these begin to believe that we have limits and we put them in place. There's no one in here telling you that you cannot be. In fact, if I'm in this school, what I recognize is that it seems like people are here to tell you what you can be. And the more and more people tell you what you can be, if you have so internalized the negative stereotypes, then you, no matter how many times they tell you, what you can be, you will believe that you can. Now, one of the things that sometimes happens when I speak, especially when I speak to young people, it always happens. There's always one person in the group who tends to fade off and isn't paying attention. And depending upon the mood I'm in, I'll correct them. I'll correct them because I recognize that that person, more than anybody in the room, needs to focus. I'll correct them because more than anything, that individual needs to understand that they are missing out on an opportunity to learn something that they didn't know. But today I'm not going to do that. And I'll tell you why. Because we spend too much time working with people who don't want it. When I say the system is set up to make sure that many of us don't make it, it's set up to make sure that most of us don't make it. And I'm not going to slow down this train. I'm not going to slow down this opportunity that you have to learn. Because one of your classmates is being disrespectful, not just to me, but to you as a school and the work that your teachers put in. I'm not going to slow it down because what I recognize is that each and every one of us has something compelling in us, but not everybody has the courage to find out what that is. And so today, that person who I've seen throughout this time put his head down and not focusing will just be the outlier. He'll be the person who at a later date will wish that on this day he listened. But you who understand that you have to be more than a stereotype and not feed into a stereotype like he is, you who understand that the only way for you to get out of these circumstances that you find yourself in and get into the dream that you want, you have to push yourself beyond the limitations that in many cases you put on yourself. The biggest stereotype that we have, the biggest challenge that we have are the limits that we put on ourselves. We think because we live in a particular area, we went to a particular school, because our parents are or are not somebody in particular, that we cannot be greater than that. The greatest challenge to us is not somebody from the outside world calling you the N-word, it's you calling yourself the N-word. The greatest challenge that we face is not some person who you will never meet, some policy person who you will never come across, making your life difficult. It's you making your life difficult. See, hating is a full-time job. People who hate wake up to hate. They put on hating shoes, hating socks, hating drawers, they all the way through. That's what they do. Haters come to hate. They come to tell you what you cannot be. And in many cases, some of those haters are people you're related to. Some people live in your same house. Some of these people who want to put limits on you may be your neighbor. See, for them, the stereotype that they have of you is really driven by their own limits that they have on themselves. They look at themselves and they think, well, if I can't do that, if I can't go to college, then she shouldn't go to college. If I can't do it, then he shouldn't do it. If he's coming to school all the time, want to wear a tie, act like he's trying to go somewhere, he thinks he's better than us. That is their limitation. Because really what they mean to say is, I don't feel good about myself. Again, I'm not concerned about what other people say about you, and nor should you be. Because the only person who can limit where you go from here is you. The only person who can slow down your life is you. Just like this young man. He had every reason to quit. He had every reason to quit, just like everybody else does. You think you're the first one to go through what you're going through? You think they invented this stuff that you're dealing with today? You think this is brand new? You think you're the only one that's got to walk through a tough neighborhood? You think you're the only one that's got a father in prison? Or mother and father in prison? You think you're the only one who struggled through a particular subject? You think this is created just for you? You think this is a You think poverty was invented so that you could live in it? You think stereotypes are here just for you? See, what you're going through, people been through and been over it. They've beaten it 100 times before. What you're going through is typical. But you have to be atypical. You have to be extraordinary. You have to be somebody who is more than what the stereotypes are. You have to be more than the limitations you put on yourself. You have to want a better life so much that you're willing to do virtually anything to get it. But in your case, you don't have to work that hard. You already go to a great school. So all you gotta do is come to school. You already have great educators, so all you gotta do is do the homework they give you. You have a group of people here who've assembled to make it possible for you to live your dreams, but the only thing that stands in the way is the stereotype that you have on yourself. My great fear for many of you is that you won't recognize how incredible you are. My greatest fear is that you will allow somebody else to tell you what you could and should be. See, what I've seen through this young man's eyes is I've seen what can happen when you start to accept that there is something great inside you. This young man whose father and two brothers have all been to prison, decided that that wasn't the lifestyle he wanted to live. It's not because he was something extraordinary, it's just because he hated that lifestyle. He hated breaking his grandmother's heart. He hated to see people not live up to what their potential was. He hated people having excuses. See, because every time you do that, you feed into the stereotype. Every time you as an African-American male come to class unprepared, homework's not done, don't even have a pen or pencil to write with, don't have a piece of paper to write on. Every single time you come in and you have an attitude with your teacher, want to argue with them about something, not to converse about it, not to have a compelling debate over it, but every single time you feed right into the stereotype. But this young man ultimately did was he decided to separate. For you, as you will see, one of the hardest decisions you will ever make is to separate from those people closest to you. How many people have people around them who you think are trying to slow you down? It's a lot of hands. Somebody tell me about that person. You don't have to tell me necessarily who they are. Somebody tell me about those people trying to slow you down. What are they doing? What's that, love? The red, what's that?
I say hate.
Hate, and what's that mean, though? In what sense?
Like, telling you to do things that they want to do, necessarily like trying to hold you back from doing what you want to do.
Trying to hold you back? Somebody else, somebody who has somebody around them who's trying to hold them back. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
They're just like trying to tear down.
I'm sorry, babe. Can you speak up a little bit?
Trying to tear your positivity to their negativity, so the more you feed their positivity, the more you try to.
She said trying to turn your positivity into negativity. Somebody else. People trying to hold you back. Anybody know somebody who's trying to hold them back? Yes, sir. He said for people when you work with them and you do things for them, they don't show appreciation, they try to bring you down. Anybody have people around trying to bring them down? Yes? What do they do to try to bring you down? What do you do to try to bring you down? You don't remember? See. All right. In any case, they can only take you as far down as you let them. You can only go as far as you can only go as far as you'll allow yourself to go down. It's imperative that you understand that the opportunity is yours. How many people want to be successful? What's that mean? What's success mean? Somebody tell me what success means now. Yes, sir. Reach your goal? What's your goal? Say what? Have a career? What do you want to do? Computer engineer? Yes, ma'am.
To reach a point in your life where you are genuinely happy.
To reach a point in your life where you're genuinely happy. Somebody else? Yes, ma'am. Say that one more time, please. To have the 3 health triangles fulfilled. Yes, sir. I like that. What's your name? Leandre said, exceeding the expectations that you have even for yourself. Give it up for Leandre. These young men that I'm talking about, the one whose father was in prison, whose 2 brothers were in prison, had that opportunity to exceed the expectations that even he put on himself. Because all he did was trust in the system. He trusted people who cared about him, and he put together his grind, made it possible for himself to get in positions where he could be successful, change the attitude because he wanted to make people comfortable with helping him, because people get tired of helping people they feel like don't appreciate it. You ever try to help somebody they don't appreciate it? How do you think adults feel when they try to help you and you don't appreciate it? What's that? Something? Did you say something? No? The same is true for everybody. We all want to be appreciated for what we do and contribute to your lives. And so the fact is that when somebody contributes something to your life, they want to make sure that you're successful. This young man made it possible for himself, not just to be successful beyond his dreams, but beyond a lot of people's dreams. He went on to work for CNN, MSNBC, come down here and speak to you today. Just because people in my life have been to prison, just because I grew up poor, doesn't mean that I have to live poor. Just because I started off behind doesn't mean I have to finish behind, and neither do you. See, we can only get to where we need to be if we're committed to doing the work that needs to happen. The only limits that you have are the limits that you put on yourself. What do I mean by that? Yes, sir. Tell yourself you can't do it. What do you mean by that? Right, if you tell yourself you're bad at math, then you will be bad at math. How many people are going to college? How many people have been accepted? Give it up for yourselves. How many of you who are here, who are going to college, will be the first in your family to go to college? What does that mean to you, to be the first in your family to go to college? Yes, ma'am. What's that? You're setting an example. Anybody else who's going to be the first in their family to go to college? Yes, sir. What does that mean to you? You'll make your mother and father proud? That's what's up. Anybody else, what does it mean for you to be the first in your family to go to college? Yes, sir. It means you're beating the odds. Does it also mean you're breaking the stereotype? Does it also mean that you are not becoming a stereotype, but you're being bigger than the stereotype? In order to even dream, how many of you always knew you were going to college? Okay. How many of you was it a surprise that you are going to college? How so? First you didn't want to go till you got here. What changed for you? What's that? Achievers made you change? But there's scholarships all over the place. You could have just said no to it. What's your name, son? Caleb? Caleb said he had said no to everything before. But then he changed his mind. Give it up to Caleb. Caleb, I'm going to stay there for a second. What made you change your mind? If you want to, sure. Okay. So Caleb said he doesn't even know what changed. Ain't nothing wrong with that. I don't understand the rest of what you said, but I got a question. Before Caleb went into a different space, what he said was, he just woke up one day and decided he wanted to go to college. Anybody else decide that they want to go to college? It just came, anybody else, it just came to you? No, you always knew you wanted to go? Okay. Back there, love, yes.
It came to me because of the environment, like the type of people that I was around. Like, they wanted to go to college, so I felt like I had to go because the other people around me was motivating me to do something. So
it's Diamond, right?
Yes.
Destiny. Destiny, One of the things that Destiny just showed us is that she surrounded herself with people who were doing right. And because they were doing right, she wanted to do right. Because they wanted to go to college, she wanted to go to college. It's called positive peer pressure. She's put herself in a situation where success was the only way out. What are some of the other ways in which you guys decided? Because the first decision is to go to college, the next decision is to stay in college. Getting there is the easy part. Who else decided? Which one decided? Raise your hand. Yes, sir.
Like being around people that's like what she said, like positive, like being around a lot of negative people, you want to do better than them.
So what he said was being around positive people made him want to be better. Am I paraphrasing that correctly?
Yeah, I was saying like based on what she said being around positive people, bigger one, positive thing. Being around negative people, you want to do better than them.
He said being around positive people makes you want to do better things. But in his case, I think I heard you say being around negative people makes you want to do better than them. That's staying positive. Give it up. And you said you always wanted to go. What's the reason you always want to go to college?
Walk outside the house.
Tell me your name again, son. Leandre, give it for Leandre. What Leandre said was every time he gets out of his house, he sees average people out in the streets and they ain't eating. He said he's trying to eat. Can't be mad at that, right? See, if you succumb to, if you commit to, if you allow the stereotypes to overtake you, then what will happen is you will limit your expectations. And when you limit your expectations, what you're trying to do is you're trying to say that since I don't expect myself to be much, I don't have to work very hard, so I can never fail. I can't ever fail because I never try. If I never try, I never succeed. But that's all right because I never fail. Some people are so afraid of failure that what they will do is stop trying, and they will come up with every cockamamie reason why they shouldn't try. So the simplest things become difficult in their lives. Simple things like getting their behinds out of bed, listening to somebody come and speak to them. Those things become really difficult for them. But those people who can't do simple things have a simple, less than regular life. They're grown people with kid jobs. How many of y'all want to be grown people with kid jobs? How many people want to be a grown person doing something that is never going to pay the bills? How many want to go to a job that you love? How many want to live in a house that you could only dream of? The only route to that place is to extend yourself beyond the stereotypes. How many people feel like you're living in your dream house right now? I'll raise my hand. That's the point. If you ain't living your dream right now, if you're not where you want to be, then the only way for you to get beyond that is for you to understand that you got to live above the stereotype. You got to live above the limitations that you put on yourself. Every single one of us does it. We think because I've never done this before, because I wasn't good at it the first couple times I tried it, because other people I know who tried it have never been really good at it, then I won't likely be able to do it. But if you allow that doubt to creep in for 1 second, if you allow that doubt to come in for 1 second, just 1 second, I promise you, you will fail. The only people who are successful are the ones who look at doubt and go harder towards it. Think of it as athletics. If you think 1 second, the ball goes past you. Life moves too fast. And what you may not recognize is a lot of y'all only have one chance. I wish I could tell you that you don't. I wish I could tell you that life was fair. I wish I could tell you know what? Look, if you mess up, somebody come around, throw their arms around you, and give you another shot. I wish I could tell you that, you know what? You're black, you're Latina, you're Latino. You can mess up a couple times, ain't no thing, give it another shot. But that ain't what it is. For most of you, this is all that you have. And the sooner you understand that, the better it is. For most of you, this is it, partner. If you don't figure this thing out right now, it's not gonna happen for you. There's an urgency in your life that you must be aware of. This is everything for you. Most of you cannot go to a parent or grandparent and say, hey, can you make sure that I'm taken care of financially for the rest of my life? Most of you cannot do that. Most of you are not in a situation where you can depend on somebody else to come in and do for you. In some cases, many of you are the most adult people in your house. In some cases, you've already got more education than the people who are raising you. And so if you think for a second that the people who are around you, the adults around you, are in a position to put you on, to prop you up, in many cases you're wrong. So if you truly understand that, if you truly get it, because everybody doesn't get it, man. And I'm telling you, everybody's not going to get it. Some people think, yeah, I'll get that later. There is no later for a lot of y'all. This is everything. Every breath you take now is it. That's all. So you happen to be in a school where you have an opportunity to do amazing things. But not everybody's going to take advantage of that. You have to decide. You have to decide if you're going to take advantage of it. You have to make that decision. Because if you don't decide that now, you won't get that opportunity. I'm not one of these people who comes in and says, man, you can be whatever you want to be. Just dream it. No, you cannot. I don't believe that. A lot of y'all think you're going to play basketball. And that's just real. That's me loving you enough to be honest with you. To tell you that you might be nice in high school, you might be better than some of the people who most of us know. But the fact is that the overall majority of you will never have the opportunity to do that. But that doesn't mean you cannot still be a professional at something and successful at something. One of my biggest concerns is that our community doesn't always get the urgency. A lot of brothers think that if we look like we're too hungry, then we'll look thirsty. And if we look thirsty, then we'll look like punks. And we don't look like punks, so what we have to do is we try to act like we don't really care about grades and we don't really care about school. Will you keep that attitude up, homie? Watch how broke you become. You keep living like that. You keep taking your time getting stuff done. You keep thinking some girl who you meet or your mother's gonna always be there to sit there and braid your hair. That stuff gets old real fast, man. There's only so many couches in the world that you can sleep on. There's only so long that you can live in your mother's basement and call it your apartment. There ain't nothing fly about subterranean living. You see, you have to understand that there's an urgency here, that there's a speed that you need to understand. The game is moving a lot faster than some of you recognize. Some of you have already missed quite a few opportunities because somebody tried to sit you a little behind down and talk to you about something, and you gave them an attitude. And that person said, you know what, I'm good. No worries. You do it. You know so much. Let me spend some time over here talking to people who are going to listen to me. Some of you have already forfeited some tremendous opportunities to change your life. And you know it. I don't even have to point you out. You know it. Somebody said, nah, man, leave that alone. Come over and do this thing that you're supposed to do. I don't like her. I don't like her attitude. Her? A teacher? She's a her now? Wow. You must be pretty dope at 16. You see, the deal is that those people who understand the urgency are the ones who will be successful. Those people who do not, will not be. You always gonna be one of those about to people. Y'all know about to people. About to go somewhere, about to do this. And they don't ever do it. They don't ever do it. It's like the fathers out there who about to come by, about to get you a bicycle, and never see it. There's an urgency here, man. There's an urgency, and if you don't get it, you won't get it. By urgency, what I mean is that you have to do these things now. When they tell you do them now, you do them now. You get them done. You keep moving, because if you don't, I promise you that the limits that you find yourself in, the circumstances, the community that doesn't have the resources to back you, the families that are here, that don't have the support for you, you can't depend on them. They're not capable of doing it. So in many cases, you are all that you have. That's true. A lot of you feel like you're alone. You should. A lot of you feel like you're the only one in your family who wants something. You might be. But that doesn't mean that you don't do it. Is it hard to make it to the next level? It sure is. My day started at 3 a.m. My day won't end until 2 tonight. 2 a.m. That's a quick math. There's not a lot of sleep in that day. But see, as a result of grinding, as a result of working hard, there's a lifestyle I get to live. And I happen to like it. There's not a place on earth that if I wanted to go to tonight, I couldn't go to. If there's a plane, train, automobile, or boat, I can get there. I say that to you because I want you to understand that where you start doesn't have to be where you finish. Where you start doesn't have to be where you finish. The only way that where you start is where you finish is if you take opportunities like this and you squander it. The only way that you end up where you started is if you don't understand the urgency, put a pep in your step, get your grind on for real, get your focus on. Keep it simple. All you have to do now, all you have to do is get focused. You're going to be going to college real soon. Some of you in as few as 4 months. As exciting as that may be for you, as wonderful as it may be for you, if you don't go there with the right mindset, they're going to send you back behind home. And you're going to be just another person who went off to college and came home. You got to come focused, ready to grind like you've never ground before. You're going to get on campus, and depending upon the school, you're going to feel like you're the only person of color there. You're going to feel like you're the only person from DC there. You're going to feel like you're the only person who's dealt with what you're dealing with there. I'm going to tell you right now, get over yourself. There's nothing but internal stereotypes, things that you think of, limitations that you put on yourself. You have to come into the circumstance, the next phase of your life, working harder than you ever worked before. You think it's hard to make it out of the hood? I got news for you. It's harder to stay out of the hood. You think it's hard to get in college? It's harder to stay in college. And then it's even harder to graduate from college. But hard is not impossible. Recognize that there's a difference. Hard and impossible are not the same. Impossible means it can't be done. Hard means it takes some work to do it. So when you enter breaking stereotypes, you recognize that hard is what you do before 9 a.m. That's easy. When you're into breaking stereotypes, you recognize that you've done this so many times before that this is just another way for you to do what you need to do to prove that you can keep doing it. When you set out to break stereotypes, you look at the limitations other people put on you as a challenge. So I'll close here. You can be the stereotypes or you can break the stereotypes. You know what people think of you. You know what people expect of you. Don't worry, we can talk over it. The only thing that matters are the limitations that you put on yourself. Good? The only stereotypes that matter, the only limitations that matter are the ones that you internalize or accept. It's not the haters around you, it's the hater inside you. You quiet that hater inside you, you will break the stereotypes. And when you break those stereotypes, amazing things will happen for you. Thank you so much for your time.
another loud round